Hi, this is a tutorial for CIL 621. I'm going to be covering the assessment experience write-up today. So I am over in modules. I'm looking at the AE checklist. I'm preparing to do assessment experience number 1, so I am going to be looking in these first boxes. Now notice that you have options for elementary and you have some options over here for secondary. So I'm going to look in the secondary checklist because I'm going to assume that I have a 10th grader. And so I'm looking at these word lists, words their way, Flint and Cooter spelling, and I'm thinking that for my student I might want to look at something like maybe the San Diego Quick. Now in your module that coincides with this assessment, you were asked to read the introductory material in Flint and Cooter to some of these comprehensive reading inventories, and you were also asked to go through and explore all of those different assessment experiences. So I've already done that, and so I have a really good idea of where I want to start with my student. Now I'm going to go back to modules, and I have to scroll all the way to the bottom to find the assessment experiences because I am not using one that's in the Flint and Cooter textbook for this, my first one. So I'm going to scroll down and get a lot of resources here. So I'm just looking for San Diego Quick. I found it, so I'm going to click on it and open it up in this window. And so what I've noticed here in the San Diego Quick is, first of all, it's for grades K through 11, and I have a 10th grader, so that should probably work out really well. The what and why of the assessment will be perfect for when I talk to you about how to talk about the purpose of the assessment as part of your requirements for the write-up. The how is going to be the procedures, and so all of these protocols will have some sort of procedure, but I'm going to come back to this language and use that to help me articulate how I administered the assessment in the write-up. So keep all of this information in mind. Now in the what it means, in this section, it's going to be titled something different for all of the assessments, but essentially this is how do I read or interpret the data, but also importantly, where do I stop with my student? So this one has only 1 through 3 errors. So I know that if my student makes 1 error or fewer, that is their independent level. They can handle that on their own. 2 errors on this list, this particular assessment, is instructional level, and so that's where I know my student is at the level that they need that support from the teacher. And then 3 errors is frustration level. That's just a little bit beyond their comfort zone, and so that's also where I'm going to stop. So if I'm looking at word lists like I am in the San Diego Quick, here we have the list here. This is going to be the protocol that I use, and I'm just going to make a couple of tick marks in these empty boxes whenever my student misses one. I'm going to tell them beforehand, I'm just going to jot down a few notes while you're reading. Don't pay too much attention to me, it will make them nervous. So make as little movements or assessment marks as possible when they're actually taking the assessment, so they don't start getting feeling like they're doing something wrong. So I have a 10th grade student. Instead of starting at 10th grade, I'm going to move 2 grade levels down just to make sure. And so that's a really good level of thumb. If I know my student really well, I might even start at grade 7. Let's say that I know that she struggles a little bit with some of her reading. So I might start at grade 7 and go through. If she misses 0, then that's good. I'm going to move on to the next one. Let's say that she misses 8. So I know that 8th grade is her independent reading level. So I'm going to continue with my student, and as she reads through each of these lists, I'm going to make more tick marks. Let's say that in 9th grade she makes 3 mistakes in that list. I am not going to push her to 10 unless I just want to make sure that, that it's just not an anomaly. If she is really struggling with that grade 9 list, I'm not going to make her keep moving up. I'm going to stop at that frustration level. So all of these are decisions that you have to make as a teacher. Where do you discuss these? In your write-up, which I'm going to cover in just a moment, you will discuss the assessment experience, your reflection on you can put that information also in the assessment data. Okay, so that's my protocol that I'm going to include with the write-up. and then this is the student material. So these are the lists that the students are going to get. So each of the assessments are different, but they're basically structured about the same way. There's going to be student materials that you'll have in front of the student. There's going to be a protocol, something that you can keep track of the data that is only for the teacher. Be sure to tell the student you're just going to make a couple of marks and not to pay any attention. It has nothing to do with what they're doing. And then that first part is going to be information for the teacher, but that's also going to help you with the write-up. So I'm in the syllabus now, and I'm looking at the rubric for the write-up. If you follow this point by point, you'll probably do very well. So I'm going to start here. It's a minimum 1-page write-up. You'll probably have 2 to 3 pages. Please no more than 3 pages. The student data is going to be first name, grade, age, and any other information of interest that's not intrusive. If you did an AE inventory, this is the perfect place to put that kind of information. AE inventories will also help you choose materials and think about instructional choices later. The name and purpose of the procedure, what luck. I've got that language already in the protocol. I'm going to go back and see what they said the purpose and language, but I'm going to cite it if I use it word for word, or I could use my own. The results are going to be the assessment data. So remember in the how, I'm going to be, since I did the San Diego quick, I'm going to want to use the language in the protocol. So they talk about that independent, that instructional level, and that frustration level. So that's what I'm going to use when I talk about the data. If you have scores, so in this case I will have numbers 1 through 3, right? So 1 mistake here on this word, 3 mistakes on that word, or on that list. So I'm going to be looking for those kinds of numbers as well. In your conclusion, you're going to base it on that current assessment, and you're going to list one differentiated strategy that's connected to the Common Core and VAC standard. So you're going to want to specifically state that standard and talk about how that strategy would work based on, to help your student based on the data that I just got. The content drives are what are the strengths of the assessment, how was the implementation, how could it be improved, and what did you learn from this experience. So you're going to take that to a meta level and talk about the experience of actually giving the assessment to the student and moving through the procedures. Your teacher growth will be your thoughts on what you learned about yourself as a thinker or a scholar or a literacy teacher, and are you making progress? Did you learn something you didn't know before? This is also a really good opportunity to bring in that course reading, the professional readings and video viewing that we've been looking at over the past several weeks. The critical reflection, after that, there's the grammar and professionalism is a big part of this. You don't have to have a cover page for the APA, that's fine, just the 12 point, all of those other basic points for APA format. And then the protocol attached. So I'm going to take the one that I actually recorded from the student, anything that the student might have written on, all of that data, I'm going to scan it and include it with my assessment write-up and submit it into Canvas. So in a nutshell, that's exactly what you're going to do for your assessment experience. For the first one, you have the option of revising. So I'm going to go back through your AE, give you some feedback, and if you'd like to revise and resubmit for more points, you can do that within 1 week after you get your grade.